about vote-by-mail voters. These are voters who have been mailed a ballot. The ballot comes in a special yellow envelope. A vote-by-mail voter can drop off their ballot at any polling place in Alameda County. One thing you want to make sure of, however, is that the vote-by-mail voter has signed the back of their envelope before it goes into the gray ballot box. Some vote-by-mail voters may choose to vote in their home precinct. If this is the case, go ahead and locate that voter in your street index, cross their name and address off, have them hand their vote-by-mail envelope to you and write "voted at polls" across the face of the envelope in big bold letters. Next, that voter's name should be found by the roster index officer, where the voter will sign in the roster index along with printing their name right over where it will state on the signature line "by mail." This is an indication to the registrar of voters that this vote-by-mail voter has surrendered their vote-by-mail ballot and has chosen to vote in the polling place. Next, that voter would be issued a ballot. The election officer who collected the ballot and envelope of the by-mail voter who chose to vote in the polling place has one last job to do. This "voted at the polls" envelope needs to now be placed in the large Ziploc bag labeled number 6, which should be located behind your official table. Prior to placing it in the bag, put a little tear somewhere on the envelope. Keep in mind, this ballot will not count, but you do need to account for it. If a vote-by-mail voter comes in and they want to vote in the polling place and they don't have their by-mail ballot, we can easily make sure this voter has the right to vote. First, the street index officer will locate the voter's name. We'll then direct them to the roster index officer, who will then look up the voter's name, see that it says "by mail" on the signature line for that voter. The voter will then proceed to the ballot officer, who will then issue a provisional ballot envelope to this voter, making sure to write the precinct number on the provisional ballot envelope. The voter is to complete all information on the provisional ballot envelope prior to being issued a ballot. In addition, the ballot officer will mark box number 1 on the provisional ballot envelope, stating that the vote-by-mail voter has either lost or misplaced or damaged their vote-by-mail ballot. A vote-by-mail voter who does not have their vote-by-mail ballot to surrender in the polling place and wants to vote in the polling place does not sign the roster index. The only signature for this type of voter should be on the provisional ballot envelope. Once the voter has fully filled this envelope out and signed it, a ballot is to be issued to the voter, making sure to take off the ballot stub, and then you'll fold the ballot in half. This will allow for the ballot to be placed in the envelope more easily. For a provisional voter, do not give a secrecy sleeve, as the provisional ballot envelope is their secrecy sleeve. Once the completed ballot has been placed inside the provisional ballot envelope, The voter should place the envelope inside the gray ballot box. In addition to the by mail message you might see on the signature line in the roster index, you may also see the words ID required. If this shows up on a voter's line in the roster index, this voter is required to show a photo ID. If an acceptable form of identification is shown, that voter may sign their name directly over the ID required message on the signature line. If this sort of voter is not able to show an acceptable form of identification, they must vote using a provisional ballot envelope and do not sign the roster.